Back then, whenever I go to the stores to pick up a new video games to play, there is this one game that's always on the display shelves that's seemingly popular. I saw it a lot in bundle deals and promos, but back then, my small circle of friends who play video games doesn't really know what it is and what's it about, and the internet is still not a thing in my area. So naturally, I just brushed it off and moved on. The game that I'm talking about is BioShock Infinite. Fast forward to 2001, I saw the same game again, this time on Steam with a $3 price tag. Hopefully this time the curiosity that I brushed off back then will be understood. So what is BioShock Infinite and why, even after all these years, it's still being talked about, and what exactly is special about this game? Did it age like fine wine or did it age like milk? As always, welcome to Nonsense, where I ramble about what I find interesting in video games, shows, and other sorts of media. This is not a review, but rather a compilation of my experiences while playing the game. And yes, I know I'm a bit late, but hey, better late than never. Also, I'm gonna refer to BioShock Infinite as BioShock so that I don't die pronouncing it every time it pops up. If you haven't played BioShock Infinite yet, please exit this video. The game is very short and spoiler heavy. Trust me, if you want a good experience in BioShock, exit now and just play it. BioShock Infinite is by far one of the most unique games that I have ever played. While the other games made me feel contented, happy, and sad, BioShock Infinite made me feel fulfilled and hopeful. It's comparable to doing a successful hunt of a stronger wyvern for the first time in Monster Hunter. All of the herbs and items you gathered culminates into that single battle, and once you have done it, you will reach this peak human experience, which is very unique in video games. That same experience will most likely stick with you for the rest of your life, similar to how you love the other games and shows you love, not because it's objectively good, but because they gave you an experience that clicks with you more than the other games in the bin. While the gameplay of BioShock is pretty much a cookie-cutter experience with occasional collision issues, that is not what made it great. No, we've seen it countless of times from other games with similar concepts. I mean, others did it better than BioShock, to be perfectly honest. The gameplay is unique in its own right, with its unique designs and implementations. Similar to other games, you use an ability and you shoot the bad guy in the head. Then that's it. But beyond its simple gameplay and simple facade, BioShock holds a much more unique and intimate approach with sidekicks. Normally, in other games, the NPCs who follow you in the game either just talks about random stuff and helps you fight enemies. In BioShock, however, they managed to make Elizabeth unique and different from the other games in the market. Elizabeth is more of a team member or a person rather than an NPC or a sidekick. But why? Well, for example, her heals, ammo, salts, and other things are not constant, meaning they are not available whenever you need them. They don't have a cooldown. They became available after Elizabeth scours the battlefield, or after you fought some enemies. If you're reading this on paper, this type of rule sounds like a pain and a hassle, but no, it actually made her usability much more sincere and real. Imagine if that help has a cooldown. The sincerity and the sense of helping one another becomes lost and uninteresting. It'll be like help on command.
2 men with me now!
Compared to the one we have where it feels like Elizabeth is working in the background to find supplies for you. And she always comes through in your time of need.
Salt, here! Take it!
That'll do!
The same can be said when exploring. She will explore on her own looking for money and other stuff. While the developers can certainly make the money transfer automatic and passive, they made it so that you have to interact with Elizabeth every time she finds something. Which again makes the whole BioShock experience better and much more sincere. It feels like you spent quality time with Elizabeth rather than hoarding ammo. I bet if I ask you to imagine Elizabeth tossing you a coin, you have this picture perfect of that scenario in your mind. In my eyes, that's certainly better than seeing an inventory box or a list at the end of the round. Most of the doors are also locked, designed so that you will need Elizabeth in your journey. Of course, the devs can easily just don't use locks and have the doors work like normal. But where's the fun in that, right? By having Elizabeth work with you rather than be carried by you simply makes the game much more fun and unique. Speaking of uniqueness, let's talk about Colombia. Saying that Colombia is unique and different is a gross understatement. The floating city above the clouds is not just unique and an engineering marvel, it's art. Everything about it feels real, from vendors to the shops. Everything in that place feels like it's meant to be there. Even if it's not stated directly, there are crossroads, daily routines, fire hydrants, a house docking system, a place where people can do picnics, road safety, parades, and yes, of course, religion. Colombia feels like a living, breathing world complete with its own sets of customs and rules. It's not just a place where the story happens. The place is the story. The place is the belief that some people are entitled than those who dwells below. It's the literal representation of the twisted heaven. The people are living lavishly with parades, picnics, and more foods to spare. They're elevated with their technological advancements in science and understanding. And even with all of those advancements, the people still view other people as inferior that's meant to be worked. And it makes me wonder if they abandon their humanity in pursuit of greatness. Places like Colombia is what cements BioShock as one of the greats for me. I would happily replay the game just to return to Colombia, which has this steampunk air city. It honestly feels like a field trip, just looking around at what the city has to offer. Well, albeit small and short, it's the best representation of the phrase, show, don't tell. Books and written media can describe a floating house docking system in great detail with a lot of words to describe it. But books are meant to be read, and games and other visual media relies on what's being shown on the screen. BioShock is not at all afraid to show how its world works. You can easily deduce that some of those houses are binded by the metal hinges and are being carried by the fire-propelled balloons. Or the houses in this game are all automata, which eliminates the problems of maintaining a real horse. You get the idea. The world is very detailed, but everything in it feels like it's meant to be there. Speaking of details, they use the small peek-hole boxes to tell tiny stories. That doesn't really affect the overall narrative, but it makes you know small bits of fun facts about the story that you might just brush off on a normal basis. The box itself reminds me a lot of prawn peeking boxes from the Kings of Restoration. I don't know what it's called, but basically it's boxes filled with prawn images. The point is, the whole idea of telling small stories in electrical boxes is unique, and it fits the overall theme of the game. The developers could have easily just added those small details, stories in the menu or something, but instead they creatively added it to the world and made it a genuine part of it. The same can be said with the tape recordings. All of those could have easily just became flavor text on the menu, or in a piece of paper inside the game or something. But no, they designed it in a way that it's integrated into the world. It's sprinkled everywhere and not laid out in a list.
But I can tell they scared out of their wits about it.
Reminds me a lot of Dishonored. They have those too.
Their usefulness is spent. They long for news of your death. Callista tried to protect her, but they pulled the child from her arms.
It always starts with a lighthouse.
I don't understand.
Call me cheap, but the ending honestly caught me by surprise. Everything at the end seemed to have clicked and made sense. By the time it clicked at the very end of the game, I realized that everything on the ending was also partly mentioned or questioned. In the earlier parts of the game, the constant and variable were already hinted at by Daisy Fitzroy.
This is what needs to be done. You see, the founders ain't nothing but weeds. Cut them down and they just grow back. If you want to get rid of the weed, you gotta pull it up from the root. It's the only way to be...
The finger was also highlighted in one of the random talks in the game.
He's coming.
Booker's regret of letting Anna go was also hinted at by Elizabeth in the house.
Elizabeth,
Promise me.
I will stop him.
That is an oath you cannot keep. But promise me that if it comes to it, you will not let him take me back.
It won't come to that. All right?
The multiverse theory was also very wobbly when it was introduced, but it was already a possibility introduced back in the Chen Lin's mission.
The body's gone.
It was never here.
It's another Columbia.
A different Columbia.
The same coin.
A different perspective.
Heads.
Tails.
Dead.
Alive.
We have to go through. Well, yes, we did it. I don't know if I brought us to a world where the Vox had weapons, or I created one.
Overall, I felt sad and completed at the same time. It's kinda sad to watch Booker getting drowned in the end by the person he was trying to protect all this time. But there is this undeniable fact that he is in fact the root of the problem. And the fact that he branded his right hands to atone for his sins, complemented by his tenacity to live out and last this long, is also the reason for all of the suffering happening in the game, which is both beautiful and destructive at the same time. Sorry if my thoughts on the ending were a little bit short, but that's really it. That's how I understand it. And sure, the game ended on an open-ended ending with open-ended conclusions, but I'm not really that smart to figure that out. Heck, I can barely understand English, and the ending that I got and understand is already fitting in my eyes. Anyways, that's it. This was definitely one of the best $3 I've ever spent on anything. It's totally worth it. If you happen to see this game on sale, buy it and gift it to a friend or something. I don't know, I can't tell you what to do, but I can recommend it. It's good.